So you may have noticed over the past couple of days I've been posting a feedback form on Twitter. Now today I'm here to explain exactly what all of that was about. Now, we got lots of YouTubers involved such as Mr. Pro Westie and Danny on PC, so thank you to those guys who managed to retweet this post and get things going. And essentially we asked hundreds of you what you wanted removed from Battlefield 4. Now, over the 2-year life cycle of this game, and probably I'd say 3-year life cycle now considering how much has changed in the past couple of months, the game has a lot of stuff in it, and we're talking masses upon masses of gadgets, guns, literally everything you could imagine exists in Battlefield. So we thought we'd take it to the community and see, okay, there's lots of things in here that A, just don't need to be in here, or B, are kind of ridiculous and you just don't want to see them in Battlefield. And we did this for every single class, and today I'm going to reveal to you the results that we got. So we asked over 300 of you, what gadgets do you want removed from the Assault class? And first place, of course, as you can imagine, is the M320 LVG, and this kind of continues because the M320 MGL and the M320 Flashbang follow suit as well. Now, the only M320 which didn't really kick up a stir was the smoke grenade one, and one of the highest complained about gadgets as well was the M26 Mass/Star. So essentially the feedback said that if the M320 LVG and MGL were removed and the Flashbang variant, the community would be a lot happier. There wasn't really that much concern as to the original M320 and the smoke grenade, because most people don't class those as ridiculous as some of its variant counterparts. On question 2, we asked roughly 300 of you, what gadgets would you like removed from the Engineer class? And this was a very simplistic one to see, and obviously outright first was the AA mine with roughly 47% voting against it. And the trend seems to be following quite significantly in the Engineer class to things that I would consider an annoyance on a day-to-day basis. So the AA mine was first, followed by the MBT Law, which I absolutely despise for its lock-on capabilities, followed by the Stinger, the Igla, and the Javelin. Now, I wouldn't say the Javelin isn't that much of a concern, but certainly the Stinger is. And the Igla isn't as bad due to its range capabilities, but many of you felt that all lock-on launchers, and I'd say many of you, roughly 31% of you, all said that you want all forms of lock-on launchers removed from the game, bar the Javelin, which sat in and around 20%. We asked roughly 350 of you what gadgets you wanted removed from the Support class, and this was probably one of the most problematic results. Now, over 50% of you voted that the XM25 Airburst should be removed, but things got a little bit trickier when it comes to sort of 2nd, 3rd and 4th place, because these are really highly contended. Now, the UCAV should be removed by roughly 45% of you, but again, the UCAV's kind of been nerfed to existence, so it doesn't really matter that it's in the game anymore. I mean, you might want to remove it for the sake of the fact that nobody's going to use it because it's been nerfed significantly, but the XM25 Dart and Smoke were also complained about. But as we head even further down the chart, sort of into the lower 20% regions of the gadgets you guys wanted removed, we start to see a very interesting pattern, and it looks like the Ballistic Shield, the Decoy, the Mortar, the MP APS and the M18 Claymore are all relatively in and around the same area, sticking in and around that sort of 17 to 22% margin. People wanted those removed. The only piece of equipment which didn't take a huge hit here was obviously the ammo pack and the C4. They stayed in and around 4%. So it looks like the XM25 is a huge problem for everybody, but even some of the smaller ones, such as the Claymore and the Mortar, are starting to become problematic in the Support class. And perhaps DICE needs to look at the Support class and see what capabilities should be taken away from them. In my personal opinion, I don't believe that they should have the ability to use a UCAV or a Mortar, or a Claymore for that matter, because those are the 3 kind of items I just feel are not in coordination with the Support class, but at the same principle, the Claymore should not be allowed because that is fundamentally a recon device, and the Mortar shouldn't be allowed just because it's a douche kind of equipment piece to use. So this was probably one of the most interesting answers that we received. And the final class, of course, the Recon class, was the most skipped question in the survey, which only has roughly 250 people responding to it, and essentially the only complaints were about the SUAV, which clearly came out on top with roughly 42% of the vote saying get rid of it. Now, I don't really see why it's a problem, but maybe it's just the fact that nobody uses the SUAV, so there's no point of it being in the game. I feel like a lot of the charts that we see here are items which have been nerfed so significantly or are so useless that they serve no purpose of actually being in the menus. And I think you're going to see that pattern repeated quite significantly throughout the rest of the charts as well. Moving on to weapons, and I found this one quite interesting because there's some real big hates that I have with Battlefield 4 in terms of weaponry. And we asked roughly 270 to 280 of you what weapons you wanted removed from Battlefield 4. And the highest picked one, with 50% of the votes, are all semi-auto shotguns. We're not talking individual semi-auto shotguns, we're talking every single semi-auto should be removed from the game. That was followed secondly by all forms of battle pickups, thirdly by pump action shotguns, and finally by DMRs. Now the other two were the Phantom Bow, the PDW, and other, but none of those really made any significant chart toppings to talk about. And to be honest with you, who really cares about the Phantom Bow? You know, it's just there for fun. If you use it in-game, that's basically just your fault. And I feel like a lot of the frustration we see in the chart with things like semi-auto shotguns and battle pickups is more down to the smaller game modes such as, you know, Rush and Team Deathmatch, where battle pickups and most specifically semi-auto shotguns are basically just abused. I don't think I've joined a Team Deathmatch this week where people have just been using assault rifles and PDWs. There's always at least, I'd say, 6 people who are running around with a Saiga 12K. So you can imagine how frustrating that must be for the overall player base. Probably my favourite answer of the form, we asked roughly 200 of you to 300 of you what vehicles you wanted removed from Battlefield 4, and everybody thought that this was going to be an interesting question, but I knew exactly what the answer was going to be, and it was what I anticipated. Nothing got over 20% of the vote except the mobile AA, which received over 72% of the vote to be removed from the game immediately, and I have absolutely no withdrawals about that. I really desperately want this thing gone from Battlefield 4. It is literally the worst idea they have had in ages. I don't know who designed the mobile AA tank and thought it was a good idea, but it just completely unbalances the game. The most complained about grenade in the game was the RGO impact, scoring over 42% of the vote, following closely to the M84 flashbang and the hand flare. But quite frankly, I'd kind of ignore the flashbang and hand flare because I feel as though it's all of the people who use thermal sights that are just complaining that they have a countermeasure for once in their life. So I'd probably ignore that, but the RGO impact seems to be problematic for people. Personally, I'd like to see it kept to a single M67 grenade, or probably 2 M67s. I like simplicity, and the V40 mini grenade hasn't been complained about very significantly either, due to the fact that it has a damage trade-off for more quantity, so people aren't that concerned. So guys, that's it for the top things that you wanted removed from Battlefield 4, and to summarise, essentially it was a case of semi-auto shotguns, MAA tank, anti-air mines, and basically anything that is ridiculously annoying in Battlefield 4, as we found out with some of the posts today. Now in the description below is an imager link if you want to go over all of these results and have a look at them in a much more visual format. It's been me, Lachlan. I'd like to say a huge thank you to Captain Excellent for providing this form, and of course all the YouTubers such as Mr. Pro, Westie and Danny on PC who have tweeted it and shared it out. As always guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in another video.